My name is Elena Vance, and I'm 32 years old. From the outside, you would have said I was one of the lucky ones. I had a quiet but respected career as an architectural historian. I paid my bills on time. I lived in a small but beautiful apartment with high ceilings, original molding, and south facing windows that poured light over stacks of books and rolled up blueprints. I treated people decently. I didn't make enemies. And for a long time, I really thought I was building a life with someone who wanted to build it with me. His name was Carter Hayes, 29. Charming in that photogenic, social media polished way that makes people assume his life is perfect because his grit is. He had that practiced half smile, the kind that says, "Relax, I've got this," even when he didn't. We'd been together 3 years, engaged for one. He was the kind of man who posted couple selfies with captions like, "Can't believe I get to marry my best friend," and "leveling up with this one." People commented things like hashtag relationship goals, and "you two are perfect." I used to read those comments in bed at night, phone glowing against the dark, and let myself believe them. I should have paid more attention to the jokes he made about manifesting a better car, or the way his eyes lingered on luxury watches we both knew he couldn't afford. I should have paid more attention to how often he said things like, "Baby, if we just had a little more money, everything would fall into place." But hindsight is the rudest narrator. The day of the wedding, I was standing at the altar in a white dress that cost more than my entire first apartment's furniture. My hair was pinned up with my grandmother's combs. The church was filled with about 150 people, friends, co-workers, distant relatives I hadn't seen since high school graduations. The organ music had stopped. The organist was shuffling sheet music, pretending not to stare. My maid of honor and best friend, Rowan, shifted her weight from foot to foot beside me, bouquet trembling just a little in her hands. Everyone's eyes kept darting to the big oak doors at the back of the church. Carter was 20 minutes late. "Maybe the limo got a flat," his mother Maureen whispered as she bustled up toward the front, face arranged into a mask of concern that didn't quite reach her eyes. She smelled like strong perfume and entitlement. "He's always been so scatterbrained," she added, with a tight, performative laugh. "Don't worry, dear. He loves you." I just nodded. My stomach felt like it was full of wet cement. Rowan leaned closer, her voice low. "If he doesn't show up, I swear to God, I'll—" My phone buzzed in my bouquet. Who texts the bride at the altar? The priest, Father Thomas, gave me a sympathetic look. "Daughter, shall we—" he murmured, gesturing vaguely, as if he could move time forward by sheer politeness. I swallowed and slid my hand into the side pocket of my dress, fishing out my phone. The notification was from Carter. The world didn't go slow motion. It just went sharp. "Carter, I'm not coming. I'm so sorry, but I can't. Juliana is here. She bought me a Ferrari, a red one. I can't throw away true love. Sorry. Not sorry. X." I read it once, twice, a third time, just to make sure the words were real and not some sick, elaborate prank. A Ferrari. He was dumping me at the altar by text for his crypto influencer ex-girlfriend who had apparently bought him a car. The room was completely silent. I could feel the weight of all those eyes pressing against my skin like heat from a furnace. "Miss Vance?" Father Thomas's voice was careful. "Is everything all right?" I held up a hand without looking at him. My own voice, when it came out, didn't sound like mine. It was too calm, like it had walked in from another person's life. "Give me a minute, Father." I stared at the text again. Sorry, not sorry. Something inside me snapped, but not in the way people expect. I didn't start sobbing, or scream, or run. Instead, a strange, cold calm washed over me. The wet cement in my stomach hardened into a block of ice. I wasn't even sad. I was done. See, I'd never told Carter the whole truth about my family's money. He knew I came from a comfortable background. He knew my grandfather had been an eccentric old tyrant who collected rare maps and enemies in equal measure. He knew there was a will, and that my mother still muttered about it at holidays like it was a curse. Carter thought I was just a boring, slightly well-off historian with a steady job and a sensible car. He had no idea about the clause. My grandfather, a manipulative genius even from the grave, had set up a $10 million trust fund for me with one insane, almost medieval stipulation. I had to be legally married by my 33rd birthday. My 33rd birthday was in 4 weeks. I hadn't told Carter because I wanted someone who wanted me, the woman who preferred old buildings to new cars, who spent weekends in archives instead of at brunch, not some walking jackpot. I thought stupidly that Carter was that person. I was wrong. I opened the file folder app on my phone with fingers that didn't quite feel like mine. Somewhere behind me, someone coughed. Somewhere in the back row, someone whispered, "What's happening?" Like we were all trapped in the same bad play. I found the PDF my lawyer, Naomi, had sent me last week when we'd been reviewing final details. The key page of the will. The part I'd read a dozen times in private, trying to decide if I even cared about the money. I took a screenshot. I zoomed in on the clause and drew a sloppy highlight with my finger. And upon the legal marriage of my granddaughter, Elena Alastair Vance, provided said marriage occurs before her 33rd birthday, the full principal of the $10 million trust shall immediately vest. I opened my messages to Carter. My fingers typed on their own. "Enjoy the car, I'm sure it's worth it." I attached the screenshot and hit send. For a second, I just stood there, phone still in my hand, listening to the distant noise outside the church, the idle hum of traffic, a bird somewhere in the trees. Then I slid the phone back into my pocket and lifted my head. Father Thomas was still standing there, his lined face full of gentle concern. "Elena?" he asked. Outside, through the thick stone walls, a scream split the air. It wasn't joyful, it wasn't surprised. It was raw and animal and furious, the sound of someone watching the ground vanish under their feet. A second later, I heard the engine of the vintage white Rolls-Royce I'd rented for Carter roar to life. The driver had very clear instructions from me. "If he's not in the car by 2:15 p.m., you leave. You take the scenic route back to the rental agency. Under no circumstances do you stop for him." It was 2:23 p.m. The car pulled away from the curb. You could feel the absence of it in the silence, like a door slamming on the day we were supposed to have. I turned back to the congregation. My voice came out steady, louder than I expected. "I'm afraid there won't be a wedding today." There was a collective gasp. Somewhere in the second row, Maureen, Carter's mother, looked like I'd slapped her. "My fiancé," I continued, the word burning my tongue on the way out, "has just informed me that he's accepted a competing offer. It seems a 2019 Ferrari beats a 2016 Honda." A few people laughed, sharp and nervous, like they couldn't help it. "The catering is paid for. The reception hall is booked." I forced my mouth into something like a smile. "And it is emphatically an open bar. Please go enjoy yourselves. My treat." It was the politest way I could think to say, "He humiliated me," but I refused to let him take everything. I handed my bouquet to Rowan. Her eyes were shiny, furious, and soft all at once. "Lena," she whispered, using the nickname only she ever got to use. "We don't have to face them. We can." "I know," I murmured back, "but I'm not hiding." I stepped down from the altar. The aisle that should have been the start of a marriage turned into a corridor of stunned faces and glittering cell phones, raised just a little too high, as if everyone was trying not to record but couldn't resist. I didn't look left or right. I just walked straight down, past the pews, past the whispers, past the little girl in a flower crown staring at me like she'd just watched a fairy tale get set on fire. At the side door, I paused for half a second and glanced at the carved wood of the exit, at the worn brass handle polished by decades of hands. This was not the door I thought I'd be walking out of today, but it was mine. I pushed it open and stepped into the small garden beside the church. The air outside was cooler, edged with the scent of damp grass and roses that had seen better days. The sky was a too bright blue, like it hadn't gotten the memo about my life collapsing. My phone buzzed again in my pocket. Carter, probably, seeing the screenshot, realizing what he'd just walked away from. For the first time that day, the corners of my mouth twitched. Let him see exactly what the Ferrari cost him. What I didn't know yet, standing in that quiet patch of sunlight and shadow, was that walking out that side door wasn't the end of anything. It was the start of the ugliest, pettiest, most entitled war I'd ever fight. Over an apartment, over 4 old maps, over $10 million, and over the simple question of how much I was willing to lose to finally be free of him. It's been a week. Right now, I'm sitting in a sterile, too bright, extended stay hotel room that smells faintly like bleach and disappointment. My suitcase is still half open on the floor. My phone is face down on the nightstand, though it hasn't stopped buzzing since I turned it back on. The first 48 hours after the wedding that wasn't were a blur. I walked for miles around the city until my feet blistered. I turned my phone off. I didn't want sympathy. I didn't want rage. I wanted silence. When I finally powered it on again, it was like opening a portal to hell. 88 missed calls, 42 voicemails, hundreds of texts. Most were from his side, his mother, his cousins, his friends, his old coworkers. The tone was always the same: disbelief, blame, entitlement. But the first voicemail, of course, was from Maureen. Her voice came through sharp, nasal, and full of performative grief. Elena, you call me back right now. How dare you humiliate my son like that? You think that money gives you the right to play games with people's lives? You trapped him. You hid your fortune to test him. That's abuse, Elena. Financial abuse. He made one mistake, and you're punishing him like he's a criminal. You owe us. Do you hear me? Us. That word, us, stuck in my throat like a splinter. Then came the texts. Dozens of them. This time from Carter himself, or rather, from his best man's phone. Apparently, he'd lost his. Carter, Lena, please, turn your phone on. We need to talk. Carter, I know you're angry, but you have to understand. Juliana manipulated me. She just showed up and I panicked. I was overwhelmed. Carter, that car isn't even new. It's a 2019 with sketchy papers. She's gone now. I made a mistake. Please, baby, I love you. It's always been you. Carter, we can still fix this. We can go to the courthouse right now. We can still make the deadline. Don't throw this away over one stupid mistake. The deadline. He remembered. My 33rd birthday, 3 weeks away. But his one stupid mistake wasn't the text. It was the transaction. That became clear when I got the alert from my credit card company. The same morning as the wedding, before he ever texted me, there'd been a declined charge attempt on my account. Amount, $20,000. Merchant. Exotic auto, leasing and sales. I froze. I'd added Carter as an authorized user months ago when we were planning expenses for the wedding. I'd frozen the card right after I left the church, but apparently he'd tried to use it that very morning. I called the card company. The rep on the line sounded apologetic. Yes, Ms. Vance, she said. That charge was declined. Would you like to report it as fraudulent? I stared at the bland hotel art on the wall, some washed-out photograph of a pier disappearing into fog. No, I said slowly. It wasn't fraud, just unauthorized. Thank you for declining it. It hit me then, the full picture. He hadn't just chosen her. He'd tried to use my money to help her buy the Ferrari, probably a down payment. The text at the altar wasn't an impulsive act of passion. It was confirmation that his new plan had failed. Plan A, marry me. Secure a lifetime of comfort. Plan B, run off with Juliana, using my credit to impress her. When Plan B collapsed, he'd tried to crawl back to Plan A. My blood went cold. This wasn't love, it wasn't even heartbreak. It was commerce. That night, I called my lawyer Naomi. Naomi's the kind of woman who wears pressed suits, speaks in clauses, and never once raises her voice. She's been my friend since grad school, and the only person who knows the full story of my grandfather's twisted will. Good job freezing the cards, she said as soon as I finished explaining. Send me the declined charge info. That's proof of intent. Intent to what? I asked, though I already knew. Defraud. Possibly theft by deception. But first, your apartment. Is your name the only one on the lease? Yes. Then he's a tenant at will. You'll need to serve notice to vacate, but don't just change the locks. Let's keep it clean and legal. I'll draft the notice. In the meantime, go get your things, with a police escort. I hesitated. Naomi, I can't. Yes, you can. You need closure and clean documentation. So I did. 2 uniformed officers, a man and a woman who both looked like they'd seen every kind of breakup imaginable, met me at my building the next morning. I knocked on my own door. It opened slowly. Carter stood there, hair disheveled, wearing one of my t-shirts. His eyes went wide when he saw me. Elena, he breathed, like a man seeing an oasis. Thank God. I knew you'd come back. I'm so sorry, baby. He moved toward me, arms half open. I stepped back. I'm not here for that, Carter. I'm here for my things. His face flickered, confusion, then anger. What are you talking about? Who are they? He gestured to the officers. Ma'am, the female officer said gently, is your name on the lease? Carter blinked. Well, no, but this is our home. We built a life here. You can't just... The officer cut him off. Sir, she's the leaseholder. She's entitled to collect her belongings and request that you leave. Carter's tears stopped. His voice hardened. You're actually kicking me out? After everything? Where am I supposed to go? I zipped my suitcase. You seem to have that figured out when you left me for a Ferrari. He flinched. She left me, okay? She said I was too much drama. She took the car and disappeared. I was trying to call you because I realized... I didn't let him finish. You realized your investment plan failed. He blinked again. You're not serious. I'm very serious. He followed me down the hall, voice rising. You're going to throw away $10 million out of spite? You think anyone else is going to marry you in 3 weeks? You need me. You'll get nothing. I stopped at the door and looked him dead in the eye. I'd rather have nothing than another conversation with you. He stared like he couldn't process that sentence. The officers stood in awkward silence, waiting. I nodded to them. I'm done here. Ma'am, the female officer said softly. We'll stay for a minute, just to make sure it's calm. Thank you. As I stepped into this hallway, Carter's voice followed me, strangled and sharp. You'll regret this! Maybe I would, but not as much as I'd regret staying. 2 weeks later, I was still at the hotel, still waking up in the middle of the night to phantom phone vibrations, still counting down the days until my 33rd birthday. 15 days left. That morning, Naomi called. He's refusing to leave the apartment, she said flatly. He tore up the 30-day notice. He's changed the locks. I pinched the bridge of my nose. He changed the locks on my apartment? Correct. So we start eviction proceedings. It's slow, but it's the only way. That same afternoon, I went by the building, stupidly maybe, just to see. My key didn't fit. Through the door, I could hear my television playing, the faint hum of my espresso machine. I knocked. He shouted from inside, Go away, Elena. You'll have to drag me out. I have rights. You're not on the lease, Carter. You're making this worse for yourself. You made it worse, he yelled back. You're vindictive and heartless. I'm calling the cops. I left. Naomi sighed when I told her. He's digging his own grave, Lena. Every word of this goes on record. But the next day, the story took a turn I didn't expect. A strange number called my phone. I almost didn't answer. Ms. Vance? Hi, this is Carter's friend, Julian. My spine went rigid. What do you want? Look, I just wanted to say sorry. He's been blowing up my phone. He's insane. Keeps saying I ruined his $10 million payday and that I owe him. He's threatening to sue me. Good luck with that. Julian sighed. The Ferrari was a 3-day rental. I was just trying to make my ex jealous. I didn't think he'd actually, well, Leave me at the altar? He cleared his throat. Yeah, that. That's cold, I said. Yeah, he admitted. Even for him. He hung up. I sat there staring at the phone, the silence suddenly too heavy. Even the man who'd helped wreck my wedding thought Carter was out of his mind. But the real punch came the following morning. My private investigator, a gruff ex-cop Naomi had recommended, texted me, Found your maps. My heart stopped. The maps. My grandfather's 17th century celestial maps. The ones he'd given me when I graduated. The only part of him I'd ever loved. P.I. He sold them to a rare print dealer downtown. Got $18,000 for the set. My throat burned. I drove straight to the shop, a quiet place with dark wood shelves and soft classical music playing. The maps were there, framed beautifully, glowing under perfect light. These are mine, I told the owner, my voice trembling. He adjusted his bow tie, confused. I beg your pardon? I have proof, I said, pulling up photos. Me, at graduation, holding the maps, my grandfather beside me. Insurance paperwork. They were stolen. His face paled. Oh, dear. I handed him Naomi's card and called the non-emergency police line right there in the shop. By the time I walked out, he'd agreed to hold them as evidence. 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. Carter. You sent the cops? He screamed. You're pressing charges over some dusty old papers? You forced me to sell them. You cut me off. You left me with nothing. I left you with self-respect, I said coldly. You just didn't want it. I hate you, he shouted before the call dropped. I stood on the sidewalk, the city buzzing around me, my heart hammering but steady. It was official now. He'd stolen from me. He'd lied to me. And he'd underestimated the one thing I still had left. My patience for a fight. It's been 3 more weeks since the wedding that wasn't. 2 weeks since I filed for eviction. 10 days since I pressed charges for felony theft. And now, it's 15 days until my 33rd birthday. The final day of my grandfather's ridiculous clause. 15 days until I either get $10 million or lose it all. But honestly, at this point, it isn't even about the money anymore. It's about taking my life back from a man who thinks consequences don't apply to him. The lawsuit arrived first. A courier in a navy suit handed me a thick envelope at the hotel front desk. Inside, a civil complaint. Filed by Carter Hayes. Breach of promise to marry. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. I laughed, actually laughed, right there in the lobby. Naomi didn't even sound surprised when I called her. She just sighed. Let me guess. He's claiming you humiliated him at the altar? And that I maliciously arranged for the limo to leave, I said. Oh, and apparently I trapped him by hiding the existence of the trust. Naomi snorted softly. Breach of promise isn't even a recognized cause of action in this state. It's a shakedown, Lena. He's fishing for a settlement. He's claiming $5 million, I said dryly. Exactly half the trust. Of course he is, Naomi muttered. File it under delusional. We'll motion to dismiss and counter for legal fees. But the lawsuit was the least of my problems. Carter still hadn't left my apartment. When the 30-day notice expired, Naomi's eviction team filed the unlawful detainer. In the meantime, he'd turned my home into a hostage situation. He was living there rent-free, refusing entry, changing locks again, and even bragging about it online. Friends started forwarding me screenshots. He'd posted photos from inside my living room, captioned them with things like, healing in my space, taking time to find myself, haddish new beginnings. Every photo made my blood boil. Then came the breaking point, a call from the property manager. Ms. Vance, I'm sorry, but your tenant, the man staying in your unit, has been hosting parties. The neighbors are complaining. Parties? I repeated, incredulous. You mean my apartment? Yes, ma'am. There was a situation last night. The police were called, but it was just noise. Still, I didn't even let her finish. File the report, send me a copy. We're adding it to the eviction case. When I hung up, I realized my hands were shaking. Not from fear, but rage. This man had stolen my maps, my peace, my privacy, and now he was desecrating the last thing that still felt like mine. I wasn't crying anymore, I was strategizing. 3 days later, my PI sent another text. PI, you're gonna want to see this. Attached. A photo. Carter at a downtown bar, leaning close to Juliana, the same woman he'd left me for. My first reaction was disbelief, then laughter, then something colder, the kind of clarity that comes after you've stopped caring what anyone thinks. I sent the photo to Naomi. Add it to the file, I typed. Her reply was instant. Already done. Then came the call I didn't expect. The shop owner who'd held my grandfather's maps called me, voice quivering. Ms. Vance, I thought you should know. Your ex came back. He tried to buy the maps again, offered me $10,000 in cash, said he was the rightful owner. I froze. You didn't sell them, right? Of course not. I called the detective right after he left. That night, an officer called to confirm. The DA was officially filing charges for felony theft and attempted fraud. Carter would be served within 48 hours. For the first time since that day at the altar, I felt something close to relief. But Carter wasn't done yet. The next morning, my phone lit up with a dozen missed calls and one voicemail from his mother. Maureen, you think you've won, don't you? You've destroyed him, Elena. You've taken everything. He has nowhere to go, no money, no future. Are you happy now? You could have fixed this. You could have married him and saved him. You're a cruel, cold-hearted woman, just like your grandfather. I deleted the voicemail, then blocked her number. Because for the first time, I realized something. They didn't want me. They wanted access to my home, my resources, my inheritance, everything they thought they were entitled to. And they'd underestimated just how far I'd go to protect myself from ever being used again. 1 week later, Naomi called. We've got a court date for the eviction hearing. Finally. Also, she added, the DA's office confirmed felony charges are proceeding. He'll probably plead out once the restitution numbers are read. How much restitution? $18,000 for the maps, she said, plus our legal fees, about 15 more. I doubt he can pay, but the conviction will follow him for life. I exhaled slowly. Good. And Lena? Naomi's tone softened. The judge assigned to your eviction case? She's a veteran, has seen 1,000 freeloaders like him. This will be quick. Then maybe, I said quietly, I'll finally sleep. Eviction day. Courtroom 3B, 10:02 a.m. I wore black slacks and a cream blouse. Naomi sat beside me, calm as ever. Carter shuffled in 10 minutes late, hair greasy, suit wrinkled. Beside him sat a lawyer whose face I'd seen before, printed on the side of a bus stop bench with the words, injured, call Greg. He still had Juliana's perfume clinging to him. The judge, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair, adjusted her glasses. Let's begin. Naomi presented the lease, the police reports, the theft file, and screenshots of Carter's public posts. Carter's lawyer stammered something about a relationship gone sour and an emotional misunderstanding. The judge's expression didn't flicker. Mr. Hayes, are you on the lease? No, but... Do you pay rent? Did you change the locks on a unit you do not legally occupy? He hesitated. She threatened me. The judge turned to Naomi. Counsel? Naomi slid a document forward. Police escort records. Ms. Vance's property retrieval. No threats, only compliance. Eviction granted, the judge said briskly. Mr. Hayes, you have 48 hours to vacate. If you are not gone by then, the sheriff will escort you out. Carter's mouth fell open. You can't do that. She's lying. Sit down, Mr. Hayes, the judge said firmly. This is over. The gavel hit wood. The sound echoed like closure. Outside the courtroom, Carter caught up to me. His mother was with him, eyes sharp as razors. Are you happy now? He hissed. You ruined me. I have nothing. I have a record. All because of you. I met his gaze, steady. All because of you. Maureen puffed up beside him, fury trembling in every syllable. That deadline passed, didn't it? You lost it all. You're broke now, just like us. Serves you right, you spiteful... Actually, I interrupted, the trust vested. They froze. What? Carter rasped. No, you didn't. You wouldn't. I did, I said. Who? He demanded, voice rising. Who'd be stupid enough to marry you? I smiled, just a little. My best friend. Her name is Rowan Pierce. She's been my rock since college. A landscape architect with ink on her hands and dirt under her nails. The most grounded, loyal person I've ever known. After Carter sold my grandfather's maps, I hit my lowest point. I was sitting in that sterile hotel room, surrounded by legal files and half-empty coffee cups, when she showed up with takeout and quiet fury in her eyes. Enough, she said. You're not letting this man or your dead grandfather win. I laughed bitterly. What's the alternative? Find a stranger and get married in 10 days? Insane. Then marry me. I blinked. Excuse me? Rowan leaned forward. You heard me. We'll go to the courthouse. We'll sign the papers. Naomi can draw up an airtight post-nup. Your money stays yours. My money stays mine. We'll make it a business partnership. That's crazy. It's logical, she said simply. Better to be tied to someone who actually cares about you than someone who sees you as a payday. And somehow I knew she was right. So we did it. A week before my birthday. Courthouse ceremony. Naomi as our witness. No vows, no flowers, just a signature that shut the door on two ghosts, Carter and my grandfather. Afterward, Rowan grinned and said, Let's celebrate this perfectly unromantic marriage with tacos. And that's exactly what we did. Back outside the courthouse that day, Carter's face was a portrait of disbelief. Her? He spat. You married her? I looked him dead in the eye. Turns out I have a thing for boring. His mother gasped. Boring? Boring doesn't steal. Boring doesn't lie. Boring doesn't trade love for a rental car. And with that, I walked away. That was 3 days ago. I'm back in my apartment now. It smells like paint and lemon cleaner. My maps are back on the wall, right where they belong. Technically, I'm married, though Rowan and I live in separate apartments. We're partners, not lovers. We're having dinner tonight to review tax implications with an accountant. It's not the fairy tale I expected, but it's peace. And peace, I've learned, is worth more than $10 million. I glance at the framed maps. 4 starscapes glowing softly in the late afternoon light. Above them, the sky outside the window fades to gold. I'm 33, not broke, not broken, and finally free.